The Whisper in the Wind. In a quiet village nestled between green valleys and ancient forests, there lived a girl named Zara. The villagers often said she was odd, not in a cruel way, but with the kind of half-smile people give to things they don't understand. While other girls danced at weddings or gossiped near the well, Zara spent her time among books, sketching the shapes of leaves, and writing in her leather-bound journal. Her favorite place in the world was the edge of the forest, where the trees whispered stories to those who listened. There, under the shade of an old fig tree, Zara would sit for hours, breathing in the wild scent of moss and earth, her thoughts drifting like clouds. The forest was a friend that asked no questions. But the forest held more than silence. Something ancient lived there, Azhaar, a being of wind and shadow, born from smokeless fire. A jinn. For centuries, he had watched the world change from a hidden veil between realms. Men built cities. Empires rose and fell. But never before had a human drawn his attention as Zara did. At first, it was her voice. Soft, lilting, full of wonder when she read aloud to herself. Then it was her loneliness, a quiet ache in her soul that echoed his own. Azhaar had never known companionship. He had wandered through centuries without care or connection. But something about this girl, this flame in a fragile shell, moved him. He kept his distance, never revealing himself, only listening as the breeze. Whenever Zara sang or spoke her thoughts aloud, the wind would stir gently, rustling the leaves in response. She noticed, of course. "You again," she laughed one day, brushing her dark hair behind her ear. "You must be the friend the trees sent me." Azhaar, hidden in air, felt something stir in his chest, a feeling he had no name for. As days turned into weeks, Zara began to talk to the wind like an old friend. She told it everything: her dreams of traveling beyond the mountains, her fears of marrying a stranger her family might choose, her questions about life, love, and why some souls felt heavier than others. "I don't want to disappear into someone else's story," she whispered once. "I want to write my own." That night, Azhaar appeared in her dreams for the first time. Not fully, not as himself, but as a tall figure cloaked in mist, standing beside the fig tree. His voice was like the sound of a stream flowing over smooth stones. "You are not meant to be forgotten," he said. Zara awoke with her heart pounding. It felt so real. She searched the forest the next day, calling out softly, "If you're there, show yourself. Are you spirit? Or just my mind playing tricks?" The wind rustled again, gently, like a hand brushing her cheek. She smiled. "I'll take that as a maybe." That evening, the village elders warned of strange winds near the forest. Some said a jinn had been sighted in dreams. Others spoke of ancient things waking. But Zara felt no fear. The presence she sensed was not evil. It was longing, curious, kind. She began to leave small gifts under the fig tree, pressed flowers, short poems, and once, a feather she found glowing faintly in the moonlight. Azhaar watched in wonder. In all his centuries, no human had ever offered him anything. They prayed out of fear. They summoned for power. But this girl, this Zara, gave freely, as if to a friend. One night, she sat under the stars and whispered, "I don't know what you are, or why I feel like you're listening. But thank you. I don't feel so alone anymore." Azhaar, for the first time in his existence, felt his formless heart beat. He was falling, not just in curiosity, but in Ishq, the deepest, most consuming form of love known to the jinn. And though she could not see him yet, Zara had already changed everything. The veil between worlds. Days slipped into weeks, and Zara's bond with the unseen presence in the forest grew stronger. She began to sense it more clearly, especially in moments of silence. The wind would swirl around her, not randomly, but in rhythms that seemed to answer her unspoken thoughts. A gentle gust when she felt anxious. A warm breeze when she smiled. She no longer doubted its intelligence. But questions lingered. Who, or what, was it? One evening, beneath a silver moon, Zara returned to the fig tree. She placed a folded letter beneath its roots and whispered, "If you're real, if you're more than a dream, then show me. Even just once." The forest held its breath. Then, slowly, the wind died, and a soft glow lit the clearing. The air shimmered like heat rising from the desert. From that shimmer stepped a figure, tall, graceful, and wrapped in robes darker than night. His eyes glowed faintly, like embers at the edge of a fire. Zara stood frozen. "I mean you no harm," the figure said gently, his voice low and melodic, like a forgotten melody returning to memory. "I am Azhaar." Zara's breath caught. "Are you a Jinn?" Azhaar nodded once. "Yes." She should have run. Every story she'd ever heard warned of Jinn, tricksters, possessors, deceivers. But Azhaar's presence felt nothing like darkness. His form shimmered faintly, never fully solid, like a painting left unfinished. "Why me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Azhaar tilted his head. "Because you saw the world without bitterness. Because you shared your thoughts with the trees. Because you speak to the wind as if it were alive." Zara lowered her gaze. "I didn't know you were listening." "I always was," he replied. Over the next few days, they met again and again, always at dusk, beneath the fig tree. Azhaar never stepped beyond the clearing, never entered the village, never touched her. He would sit beside her as mist, as wind, sometimes as a vague silhouette when she needed someone to talk to. Their conversations flowed effortlessly. He spoke of realms unseen by human eyes, of spirits that danced on mountaintops and deserts that remembered the voices of the dead. She spoke of loneliness, of duty, of how it felt to be a girl expected to become someone else's wife, someone else's idea of perfect. "I envy your world," Azhaar admitted one night. "It is fragile, yes, but it is full of meaning. Each moment matters." Zara looked at him. "And yours doesn't." "Immortality dulls things," he said. "Until you came." She stared at him for a moment, unsure of how to respond. A part of her was fascinated. Another part was afraid. "Azhaar, you feel real. But you don't belong here. I don't belong in your world either. We're too different." "I know," he said quietly. There was a long pause before he spoke again. "But even so, I have come to feel something I never imagined I could. For you, Zara. Something more than admiration. Something deeper." She didn't move. Her heart pounded, unsure whether it was fear or something else. "Ishq," Azhaar said, the word heavy with ancient weight. "It is love beyond reason, beyond time. It is what burns within me now." Zara's throat tightened. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't have to say anything," he replied. "Not yet." Azhaar began appearing in her dreams again, this time clearer. He would walk with her through endless gardens lit by stars, never holding her hand, never crossing a boundary, just being near. And in waking hours, she found herself thinking of him more than she wanted to admit. But she also began to feel the weight of it. What did it mean for a Jinn to fall in love with a human girl? One night, as she sat alone under the fig tree, Azhaar didn't appear. Instead, the wind whispered in a strange, trembling tone. "I wish I were human," it said, as if through tears. "Just for one lifetime. Just to walk beside you." Zara clutched her arms around herself, both terrified and aching. She knew now, something powerful was awakening. But love between worlds was never simple. And the veil between them, however thin, was not easily crossed. The temptation of forever. The season turned. Autumn painted the village in copper and gold, and Zara's world quietly changed with it. By day, she lived her normal life, helping her mother, tending to errands, smiling politely at the neighbors. But each evening, she returned to the fig tree, where a world unseen awaited her. Azhaar's presence had grown stronger. He no longer remained just a shimmer or a voice in the wind. Now he took a more human form, elegant, unaging, with eyes that held centuries behind them. When he sat beside Zara, it felt like the forest itself leaned in to listen. But with that closeness came weight. One night, under a moonlit sky, Azhaar spoke the words Zara had feared. "I wish to make you mine," he said gently. "Forever." Zara stiffened. "What do you mean?" "I can give you a life without pain. No aging, no death. No human sorrow. Come with me to my realm. You'll never feel alone again." The words hung between them, thick and intoxicating. It was a beautiful offer, and a terrifying one. Zara looked away. "I don't know if I belong in your world, Azhaar. I'm just me." He reached toward her, but his hand hovered in the air, never touching. To me, you are more than just anything. I've watched empires rise and fall, seen stars burn out, and yet nothing has moved me like you have." Her heart fluttered, but her mind remained grounded. "And what would I become in your world? A memory? A shadow? Would I still be human? You would be more kept safe, preserved." Zara stepped back. "That sounds like a cage wrapped in silk." Azhaar's face fell. For the first time, his voice trembled. "I would never imprison you." "Even unintentionally?" she asked softly. That night, she left earlier than usual, her thoughts swirling like leaves in a storm. The next day, Zara sought out the old Sufi mystic, Baba Rahim, who lived in solitude on a hill above the village. The villagers called him mad, but Zara had always felt he saw truths others didn't. She found him tending a small fire, humming to himself. "Child," he said, before she even spoke, "your soul is heavy with questions." Zara sat beside him and told him everything: the wind, the voice, the form, the offer. He listened quietly, stroking his silver beard. Finally, he said, "Love from the unseen is not uncommon. Jinn are drawn to fire like humans are drawn to light. But child, their love, it burns." "But what if it's real?" she asked. "What if it's gentle and kind?" "Even the gentlest fire consumes when embraced too closely," he said. "You are of earth. He is of flame. That difference matters." Zara nodded slowly. Her heart warred with her mind. She wanted to believe love could conquer all. But something inside her remained unsettled. That night, as she sat beneath the fig tree, Azhaar appeared, but something was different. Zara's thoughts grew foggy. Her limbs felt heavy, as though wrapped in warmth too thick to escape. Her mind buzzed with a strange calm. "Don't be afraid," Azhaar said, his voice velvet smooth. "I only want to help you decide." "Help me," she murmured. Her voice was distant, unfamiliar. "A spell," he admitted softly. "Just a gentle one. To ease your doubt. To show you what our eternity could be." Zara's heart raced beneath the fog. You did something to me?" Realization cracked through the haze. Her body shivered, and her soul rebelled. With a cry, she gripped the charm around her neck, the silver pendant Azhaar himself had gifted her for protection weeks ago. As her fingers closed around it, the fog lifted like a curtain. Tears filled her eyes. "You said you'd never control me." Azhaar recoiled, shame twisting his features. I thought if you could only see." "That's not love, Azhaar," she said, her voice sharp with pain. "You don't get to take my will just because you feel something for me." He dropped to his knees, wind gathering mournfully around him. "Forgive me." Zara turned away, silent. He had crossed a line, and no magic could undo that. That night, the fig tree stood silent. For the first time, Zara didn't look back as she left. And Azhaar, the ancient jinn who had wandered the world without care for centuries, felt something foreign and crushing. Regret. The farewell that saved them both. The fig tree stood untouched for days. Zara did not return. The winds in the forest grew restless, as if mourning. The animals kept their distance, the leaves stayed still. Even the sun seemed hesitant to touch the clearing where once laughter and whispered conversations had lived. Azhaar waited each evening, silent and still. He did not appear in Zara's dreams. He did not send the wind to her window. He simply waited. And then, one evening, she came. Draped in a soft blue shawl, her eyes calm but distant, Zara stepped into the clearing. Azhaar rose slowly, his form subdued, as if the guilt of his actions weighed down his eternal body. "I came," she said, voice steady, "because I needed to see you one last time." He said nothing, only bowed his head. "I forgave you the night it happened," she continued. "But I needed time. To understand what love means when it crosses boundaries." "I never meant to hurt you," Azhaar said quietly. "But I did. And for that, I will carry the shame for as long as I exist." Zara looked at him, not with anger, but with sorrow. "You thought you were showing me love, but it became something else when you took away my choice." Azhaar nodded. "I know." There was silence. Not cold, but thoughtful. "You loved me," she said softly, "in your own way, and I cared for you truly. But love cannot live between two who walk different paths. My world has limits. Pain, change, death. Yours does not." "I would have given all that up for you," Azhaar whispered. "I would have become mortal if I could." She smiled sadly. "But you can't. And I can't live as something I'm not, even for love." The truth between them settled like dust. Azhaar stepped forward, his hand once again hovering just inches from her own. "Then let me give you something, not to bind you, but to protect you." A soft wind gathered in his palm, forming a glowing pendant of faint blue crystal. "This charm," he said, "will shield you from the darkness of my kind. It will guard your dreams. And should you ever feel lost, it will remind you of who you are." Zara accepted it. Her fingers brushed his, just once. It was the first and last time they ever touched. She looked at him, eyes glistening. "You were real, Azhaar. No one will believe me. But I will always remember you." "And I," he said, "will remember the girl who taught a creature of fire what it meant to feel." With that, Azhaar stepped back. The wind began to rise, swirling gently around the fig tree. Leaves fluttered upward. His form dissolved slowly into mist, then into nothing but air. And then he was gone. No final goodbye. No lingering presence. Only stillness. Years passed. Zara never married. She chose instead to live freely, becoming a teacher, a storyteller, and a quiet force of change in her village. She built a library for children. She told tales of unseen worlds, not as warnings, but as lessons. The fig tree remained her place of peace, though she rarely visited. Sometimes, when the wind blew just right, she would smile without knowing why. She never told anyone about Azhaar. Not in full. But in her stories, there were always characters with emberlit eyes and voices like music. Her listeners called them fantasy. She called them memory. One night, as she stood by her window, now older, wiser, and lined with quiet strength, the wind stirred once more. It was soft, almost shy, as it brushed her cheek. She turned toward the fig tree in the distance and whispered, "I'm still walking, still choosing." The wind paused. And then, with a final gentle gust, it moved on. Moral of the story: love that does not honor freedom is not love, it is possession. True love does not demand sacrifice of self, but cherishes the soul for what it is. Some bonds, though brief, leave eternal echoes.